شاه و بسیاری از نقاط دیدنی ایران دعوت می کند. با شهرزاد تراول از شرق به غرب و از غرب به شرق در دنیا به روی شما باز است. 310 477 9400. برای مدتی محدود شهرزاد تراول بلیت سفر رفت و برگشت به ایران را فقط به مبلغ $1250 ارائه می کند. شهرزاد تراول.
Hello, and thank you for watching Iran Press Review on Andisha TV. This week, in an article published by the New York Times written by Thomas Erdbrink, it was stated that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei threw some cold water on recent efforts to reinvigorate diplomatic contacts between Iran and the United States, saying he was not optimistic that any agreement would be reached, though he does not oppose talks on certain issues. At a meeting on Sunday with the departing President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad and his cabinet, Mr. Khamenei said that he did not believe that direct talks with the United States would have a positive effect on Iran. Mr. Khamenei warned, "The Americans are unreliable and illogical, and are not honest in their approach," adding that his view was based on previous talks with the United States, often conducted secretly on issues like Iraq. President-elect Hassan Rouhani, who will be inaugurated on August 4th, argued during his election campaign that it was better to talk to the head of the village, meaning he preferred negotiating directly with the United States rather than its European allies. Last week, 131 members of Congress signed a letter drafted by Representative Charlie Dent, Republican of Pennsylvania, and David E. Price, Democrat of North Carolina, encouraging President Obama to reach out to Iran now that it has elected Mr. Rouhani. But Mr. Khamenei, who has the final word on potential talks, said on Sunday that he did not trust American officials enough to engage in comprehensive, direct talks. He did not elaborate, but a speech he made in March laid out some of his reasons for skepticism. In a broadcast speech, he said, "Despite their claims of friendship with the Iranian nation, the Americans started imposing harsh and widespread oil and banking sanctions on Iran, and they insist that they should not be considered enemies in spite of these hostile actions." Hamid Reza Targai, political activist close to Mr. Khamenei, also mentioned the embargoes. He said it is not enough for some U.S. congressmen to write a letter. They should start lifting sanctions. This would be a real green light for negotiations. Mr. Khamenei and his supporters have often demanded that the United States start lifting sanctions and agree to compensate Iran for what they call historical wrongs, like the American-engineered coup d'etat in 1953 and the downing of an Iranian civilian airliner in 1988. Still, Mr. Khamenei, who has been Iran's top leader since 1989, has allowed some deals to be negotiated, including support and intelligence for the American-led fight against the Taliban in Afghanistan in 2001 and the formation of governments in Afghanistan and Iraq. Mr. Khamenei emphasized in his remarks on Sunday that Iran was ready to increase its interaction with the world, one of the main election promises Mr. Rouhani made. Mr. Khamenei said, "If interactions with the world means we retreat from our path, this is a loss." A person close to Mr. Rouhani's camp, who spoke on the condition that he would not be identified on account of the sensitivity of the subject, said that he interpreted Mr. Khamenei's speech as supportive of the new president. He said, "It is clear we are ready to talk, if the other side explains what the end results of such talks can be." Now that was the article. And I believe that Iran and Western countries have been at some sort of a stalemate for the past couple years, and Iran doesn't want to slow down its nuclear program, while the West is not willing to ease their sanctions on Iran without clear and distinct action from Iran to slow down their program. So they've been stuck for quite some time now, and the election of the moderate cleric Hassan Rouhani as Iran's president has raised hopes of P5+1 talks on the nuclear issue. However, this announcement by Khamenei will surely slow down any potential progress that could be made. But I do not think that these talks are absolutely out of the question, but both sides are wary to jump in. And I believe these talks must be carefully planned out in advance and gone about very, very meticulously in order for them to be successful, because trust is lacking severely between the countries. In an article published in the New York Times, written by Cliff Kupchan, who is the director for Middle East at Eurasia Group and a former U.S. State Department official, he published an article which was purely his opinion on the matter of Iran. He stated, when Iran's president-elect Hassan Rouhani takes office on August 3rd, he will probably bring moderation to at least some aspects of Iranian nuclear policy. It would be tragic if Rouhani's ascent becomes yet another missed opportunity in the U.S.-Iran saga. Rouhani was elected with a popular mandate to pursue centrist policies and ease the nuclear standoff. He has consistently called for more transparency in the Iranian policy in order to show that Iran seeks nuclear energy and not an atomic bomb. He has called for a more prudent negotiating strategy. He has committed himself to improving Iran's economy, and he recognizes that lifting the yoke of sanctions is important to achieving that goal. But Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei will continue to call the shots on the nuclear policy, and the common wisdom is that Khamenei is opposed to an agreement. Indeed, Khamenei views the United States with great enmity, and his core constituency, the Revolutionary Guard, will be wary of a deal. But there are reasons for hope. Khamenei must be aware of Iran's dire economic plight, which is in significant part the result of sanctions. The inflation rate is over 40%. Nearly a quarter of men under the age of 25 are unemployed, and swaths of the economy are failing. Khamenei is aware of Rouhani's mandate for change, and the election campaign made clear that other powerful groups share Rouhani's view. Khamenei also very likely knows how the new Middle East handles autocrats who completely ignore popular will. Soon after Rouhani's inauguration, the United States must test whether Iran's new political alignment will produce just happy talk or real policy change. The best test would be a more creative and forthcoming proposal on the interim nuclear deal, one that would be difficult for Iran to refuse. The essence of the approach should be more for more. More sanctions relief for more Iranian concessions on the most threatening aspects of their nuclear program. The sides would agree that after the interim deal is reached, they would negotiate the end state of Iran's program within a year. A deal would need to place constraints on Iran's nuclear program so that the West would be confident that Iran could not quickly acquire a nuclear weapon. The West should add the new demand that Iran suspend installation of centrifuges. The growing size and sophistication of Iran's program makes a fast breakout more feasible. The United States should insist that Iran agree to a more frequent and intrusive inspection regime and continue to demand that Iran cease production of 20% enriched uranium, which is dangerously close to weapons grade, and eliminate its stockpile of the material. That's a big ask, and in return, the Obama administration has to sweeten the pot. Iranian elites, including Rouhani, view the disposition of 20% enriched uranium as Iran's key bargaining chip. The West won't defang this or any other key threats without offering significant sanctions relief. The United States should propose to ease oil and financial sanctions using presidential waiver authority to the extent permitted by law. The administration should be willing to allow at least several 100,000 barrels per day of Iranian crude, of roughly 1.2 barrels per day that sanctions have blocked, to return to the market. The sanctions relief would be implemented in a slow, reversible manner to deter Iranian backsliding. The elements of this deal should be implemented in stages to build confidence, but could be agreed as a package. The Obama administration should not seek an end-state agreement at the outset. While general principles of the endgame should be discussed, the issues involved are far too complex, and trust between the sides insufficient to negotiate a deal quickly. Neither should the United States offer any form of take-it-or-leave-it proposal. Iran's elites would almost surely say no to an ultimatum, and that could well lead to military conflict. The United States has time, but it is limited. Within the next 1 to 2 years, Iran will probably acquire the ability to make a bomb faster than the United States could detect and attack the breakout. After that point, diplomacy would be useless. The West has effectively used sanctions to rattle Iran, but sanctions will not have succeeded until Iran's nuclear program is tamed. Now is the time to make every effort to reach a deal. I believe that Mr. Kupchin is correct when he stated that the deal cannot be made in a hasty manner. It should be carefully drawn out and negotiated. And as he stated, a take-it-or-leave-it mentality is definitely not going to work to the advantage of either side in this situation and could lead to military conflict. Once Rouhani is sworn in early August, talks between the sides should be discussed and planned out in advance, as this issue is extremely time-sensitive. If the U.S. waits any longer, Iran might have built a bomb, and the biggest threat will most likely be aimed at the West for shattering their economy with heavy sanctions. In the Jerusalem Post, an article was published written by Michael Wilner. He stated that the U.S. House of Representatives will vote next week on legislation aimed at slashing Iran's ability to export any oil. With 360 co-sponsors in the 435-member body, the bill will pass, and it is expected to be matched in Senate after Congress's August recess. The sanctions bill requests that the U.S. President, under his authority provided by the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, come up with a strategy within 2 months to cut Iran's remaining export sales of roughly 1 million barrels a day. After a year, exemptions granted to countries such as China, Japan, Turkey, and South Korea, which continue to import Iranian oil, will no longer be granted. Companies in those countries doing business with Iran previously given a pass will be cut off from the U.S. economy. American officials are confident that there is spare capacity in the global market to replace Iran's exports. Libya is back to producing oil since its revolution ended in 2011, and Saudi Arabia is prepared to accommodate Iran's customers with spare production capacity of 2 to 2.5 million barrels a day. Previous U.S. efforts cut Iranian oil exports by more than 65%, devastating the economy of the Islamic Republic. Foreign officials and private industry leaders have been briefed on the language of the U.S. bill. China stands the most to lose. Iran remains its third largest source of oil after Saudi Arabia and Angola, and the companies that facilitate that trade have major assets in the United States. PetroChina, China's largest oil producer, is one such company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. These Chinese firms vocally opposed to extraterritorial sanctions and to taking orders from the United States will have to decide within 14 months whether to have a business relationship with Iran or the U.S. The House bill also targets other loopholes in the current sanctions regimen, including foreign exchange reserves that have allowed Iran to deal in euros. These exchanges over the past year have been primarily facilitated by Chinese banks. The bill attempts to strangle the bank's ability to operate with foreign partners in the U.S. It also targets Iranian shipping with stricter inspection and flagging regulations. The bill is a significant response to the election of incoming Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, who campaigned on a platform of reconciliation with the West. U.S. officials and experts have questioned the authenticity of Rouhani's intentions and his ability to deliver, as Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is still firmly in charge of decision-making on the country's nuclear program. While the sanctions will be harsh if and when executed, the timeline for their full implementation a year from passage, likely in September or October, grants the Iranians another year or more to acquire nuclear weapons capability. As one source close to the drafting of the bill conceded, if Iran chooses to press full speed ahead on the uranium enrichment, no sanctions bill can stop it. That was the article. Now, the addition of these sanctions that will be implemented an entire year from now will do nothing but enrage Iran's leaders, causing them to speed up their nuclear program, if anything. It gives them enough time to finish building the bomb and would likely dissuade them from agreeing to talks with the West. As stated in the article, an additional sanctions bill is not going to put a stop to Iran's nuclear program at this point. It will only motivate them to carry on at faster speeds. In an article posted on RT.com, it was stated that Russian President Vladimir Putin may visit Tehran next month. Among other things he is to discuss with Iran's new president is a possible deal to supply advanced anti-ballistic missiles to the Islamic Republic. Putin is expected to fly to Iran on August 12th to meet in person the country's newly elected president Hassan Rouhani. Iran's Mehr news agency said Putin would arrive on August 16th. The trip would probably be the first visit of a foreign head of state to the country after Rouhani is sworn in on August 4th and replaces Mahmoud Ahmadinejad as the head of government. The two leaders are likely to discuss a number of pressing political and economic issues, from Iran's controversial nuclear program to Russia's participation in the expansion of Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant, the report says. Among them is a possible arms deal, which is certain to draw objections from some countries. Russia is offering to purchase S-300VM anti-2500 air defense systems, according to industry sources. It's a cousin of the S-300 long-range surface-to-air missile family. S-300s were developed for the Soviet air defense forces, but ground forces, an originally distinct branch of the Army, wanted a similar system tailored for their own needs. On their order, the S-300V was developed and later upgraded to the better S-300VM version. Kommersant first reported that S-300VMs may be offered to Iran last month, citing anonymous sources. The move is meant to convince Tehran to revoke its complaint against Russia over the canceled deal to deliver 5 batteries of S-300 anti-missiles, which was signed in 2007 but scrapped in 2010 when the Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, signed a law limiting Russia's military cooperation with Iran. The scrap deal was worth an estimated $800 million. After it was canceled, Tehran sought damages and filed a lawsuit with an international arbitrage in Geneva, demanding $4 billion in compensation. Russia is not planning to revoke the 2010 decree, which put an end to the deal and came following a UN Security Council resolution issuing sanctions against Iran over its nuclear program. But the S-300VM systems are not listed among the weapons banned from sales to Iran and are not subject to the decree. Over the years, Moscow explored several approaches to mend the rift with Tehran that the broken deal caused. Among those was an offer to supply Tor M1E air defense systems, which Iran rejected, according to Iranian and Russian sources. Military experts believe that the anti-2500 deal would be more attractive to Tehran. The system was tailored to intercept tactical ballistic missiles. A possible Israeli attack on Iran is expected to start with a massive missile attack on Iran's key air defense sites and military air bases before follow-up airstrikes at its fortified nuclear enrichment facilities. S-300VMs are well suited to counter this threat, Kommersant said. Earlier, top Iranian officials, including outgoing President Ahmadinejad, confirmed that negotiations to settle conflict over the S-300 deal out of court are underway. An S-300VM battery is capable of taking down both aerial targets, moving as fast as 4,500 kilometers per hour, tracking and engaging up to 24 aircraft or up to 16 ballistic missiles simultaneously. It has a range of up to 200 kilometers for aircraft and up to 40 kilometers for ballistic missiles. It takes no more than 6 minutes for a trained crew to deploy the system from travel position to combat position. The system is cleared for international export. Russia sold 2 S-300VM batteries to Venezuela in April last year, which was the first deal for the hardware. Turkey and India are other possible buyers of the system. Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov would not immediately comment on the report of the planned Putin visit to Iran. That is all for today. Thank you for watching Iran Press Review.
ایفا می‌کنند.
با سلام، من افشین هستم و با 8مین قسمت از برنامه هفتگی آپوزیت در خدمتتون هستم. همکاری من مدتیه که با صدای آمریکا قطع شده و هدف اصلی از تهیه این برنامه اطلاع رسانیه. خب ما هر هفته به بررسی مهمترین رویدادهای هفته‌ای که گذشت میپردازیم، ولی این هفته یک روی داد که از تمام رویدادهای دیگه مهمتر بود و اون چیزی نبود جز دیدار سالیانه حضرت آقا با مسئولین و کارگزاران نظام. در این دیدار ابتدا دکتر احمدی نژاد بالای سن رفتن و به ایراد سخنرانی پرداختن و بعد از اون حضرت آقا خودشون شخصا به نوعی این سخنان رو تایید کردن و کلا ماحصل همه این حرفا این بود که همه چی آرومه، من چقدر خوشبختم.
همه چی آرومه، من چقدر خوشحالم، پیشم هستی حالا به خودم میبالم، تو به من دل بستی از چشات معلومه، من چقدر خوشبختم، همه چی آرومه.
از دیگر نکات مهمی که حضرت آقا در این دیدار بهشون اشاره کردن جهتگیری ها و خط امام و تفسیرهای متفاوت از خط امام. اما قبل از اینکه به سراغ خود این سخنرانی ها بریم، یه چند تا نکته راجع به نحوه برگزاری این مراسم هستش که باید حتما بهش اشاره بشه. این مراسم به مناسبت دیدار سالانه کارگزاران نظام مقدس با رهبر معظم برگزار میشه. یعنی تمام مسئولین لشکری و کشوری از این قوه تا اون قوه، خلاصه همه میان تا آقا نصیحتشون کنه و راهکارهای کشور و کلا نقشه نظام رو یک بار دیگه براشون ترسیم کنه. البته این نکته‌ای رو من همین جوری بگم، مسئول تشخیص مصلحت نظام در این جلسه کارگزاران نظام حضور نداشتن. همین جوری گفتم ها. نکته جالب توجه در مورد این مراسم سیاسی مذهبی اینه که تمام مسئولین درجه یک کشور میان توی جایی مثل تکیه و 4 زانو و 2 زانو بعد بشینن تا 1-2 ساعت سخنرانی رو گوش بدن. یعنی واقعا نمیشه یه همچین نشستی که در سطح مسئولین درجه یک کشور داره برگزار میشه و همه دنیا دارن میبیننش یه جای بهتری برگزار بشه، مثلا همه رو صندلی بشینن. من نمیفهمم واقعا این نظام مقدس با برگزاری این چنینی یه همچین مراسمی چی رو میخواد ثابت کنه. در این مراسم ابتدا رئیس جمهور مردمی و عدالت محور نظام بالای سن رفتند و راجع به پیشرفت‌ها و کارهای بزرگی که در دوره خودشون برای کشور انجام دادن یک گزارش ارائه دادن. هرچند که یک گزارش شبیه این و هفته پیش به صورت خصوصی‌تر خدمت آقا گفتند که البته اونم از تلویزیون ملی پخش شد، ولی خلاصه یه بار دیگه برای محکم کاری بازم گفتن اینجا. در اینجا توجه شما رو به خلاصه ای از سخنان ایشون در ارتباط با همه چی آرومه، من چقدر خوشبختم جلب میکنم.
بسیار برجسته سرعت رشد ما، یعنی کاهش فاصله ما با اونایی که خیلی بالا هستن سرعت بسیار بالایی است. دومیم در دنیا. افزایش 7 برابری، افزایش 12 برابری، افزایش 8 برابری، افزایش 7.3 برابری، افزایش 3 برابری در میکروالکترونیک، در بیوتکنولوژی، در نانوتکنولوژی. تعداد انجمن‌های علمی 1.8 برابر. پارک‌های علم و فناوری، نشریات علمی علمی پژوهشیش مراکز رشد 4,482,000 نفر، 1,200,000 اشتغال پایدار، 34,420 میلیارد تومان، 2/3 درآمد صادرات نفت خام، 8% عمرانی استان‌ها، 8.81 برابر. حالا دو دهک رو میگیریم. علاوه بر اینها 10 عنوان کار دیگه انجام شد.
اصولاً وقتی روی چیزی خیلی تاکید میشه و بهش اصرار میشه بعد بهش شک کرد. یعنی که مثلا وقتی هوا روشنه، خب روشنه دیگه، روز دیگه، احتیاج به ثابت کردن و توضیح دادن نداره که. یه وقتی مثلا یه کسی حالش خوبه که ایران نمیره بگه من حالم خوبه. وقتی اینو میگه که برعکس باشه، یعنی کلا اگه وضع مملکت اینقدر خوبه، اینو خود مردم باید بفهمن. دیگه نیازی به این همه اثبات و آمار و دلیل و مدرک نداره که. در جواب این سخنان آقای دکتر احمدی نژاد لازم میبینم که یک بار دیگه این قسمت از سخنان آقای دکتر روحانی رو براتون پخش کنم.
مردم مشکل کشور را لمس میکنن با همه وجود و اگر کسی مشکل مردم را به زبان نگوید فقط دل مردم را آزرده کرده است و مردم را عصبانی. یاوه‌گویی مشکلی را حل نمی کند.
نمیدونم ما کی قرار خلاص شیم از دست این یاوه‌گویی ها. از اینکه بگذریم به فرمایشات حضرت آقا میرسیم. اول خدا رو شکر میکنیم که
خدا رو شکر میکنیم به حمدالله نصرت‌های الهی پی در پی شامل حال این مردم بوده است. آخرین اون که نصرت بزرگی هم بود همین مسئله انتخابات بود، حضور مردم بود.
اگه نمیدونین معنی نصرت چیه میشه پیروزی. من نمیفهمم نظامی که اینقدر محبوبیت و مقبولیت داره چرا باید اینقدر دست و پاش بلرزه که یه وقت مردم نیان تو انتخابات شرکت کنن و حالا که 70% واجدین شرایط اومدن توی انتخابات شرکت کردن بعد اینو یک نصرت الهی به حساب بیاره. نصرت در برابر کی؟ در برابر چی؟
یک نگاه کلی به کشور بکنیم. خوشبختانه کشور در یک مقطع خوبی قرار دارد.
خب خدا رو شکر. اینم به قول شما یک چی بود؟ نصرت الهی دیگه. خب حالا اگه جسارت نباشه میشه راجع به این مقطع توضیح بدین؟
من به شما عرض بکنم مقاطع تحویل مسئولیت دولت‌ها جزو مقاطع خوب کشور و تاریخ سیاسی ماست.
آهان، مقاطع تحویل مسئولیت دولت‌ها جزو مقاطع خوبه. چرا؟
دولت دارد دست به دست می شود. مجموعه جدیدی، گروه جدیدی باید با استفاده از اونچه که تاکنون انجام گرفته است و با بنا بر روی بنایی که تا امروز بالا رفته است انشاءالله کشور رو پیش ببرن.
آخه مشکل هم اینجاست حضرت آقای مقام معظم، این بنایی که تا امروز بالا رفته همچین یه خورده، نمیخوام خدایی نکرده زحمات نظام رو نادیده بگیرم ولی یه خورده همچین بفهمی نفهمی کلنگی شده.